Welcome back to the Midnight Narrator. Tonight we reach the terrifying climax of our journey into the heart of Juniper High's dark secret. Our narrator, driven by a potent mix of curiosity and defiance, has navigated the school's deserted corridors and descended into the claustrophobic depths of the maintenance tunnel. Now they stand on the threshold of the transformed indoor pool, ready to confront whatever lurks within the unnaturally purple water. Prepare for a descent into a dreamlike nightmare, where silence screams louder than any monster, and the familiar becomes terrifyingly alien. Join me as we finally uncover the truth behind the purple pool. Turn down the lights, listen closely, and brace yourselves for the chilling revelation that awaits beneath the surface. The school's security protocols, in retrospect, were laughably, almost negligently, lax. Mrs. Henderson, the designated night janitorial staff, a woman of advanced years and demonstrably declining vigilance, was, with near predictable regularity, discovered in a state of semi-somnolence within the dimly lit confines of the faculty lounge, her responsibilities of nocturnal building security seemingly relegated to a distinctly secondary priority, and the exterior doors, particularly those less frequently utilized points of egress and ingress, situated in the less trafficked peripheries of the athletic fields and the seldom visited vocational wings, were with alarming frequency and almost casual disregard for institutional security protocols, routinely propped ajar by students surreptitiously seeking discreet opportunities for illicit nicotine consumption. My plan, therefore, began to coalesce into a surprisingly straightforward, if undeniably risky, operational framework. I would wait. Patiently, deliberately, strategically. I would wait until the late hours of the night, after the predictable ebb and flow of evening activities had subsided, after the familiar patterns of suburban domesticity had settled into the quietude of slumber, after the school building and the surrounding grounds were demonstrably verifiably deserted. Then, under the cloak of near-total nocturnal obscurity, I would initiate my clandestine infiltration. I would systematically circumnavigate the school perimeter, methodically testing each and every exterior door, patiently searching for that telltale sign of adolescent negligence. An unlocked portal, a door left inadvertently or perhaps deliberately ajar. Upon successfully identifying a point of unsecured ingress, I would, with all due haste and maximum discretion, slip inside the darkened, silent edifice of the high school, navigating the labyrinthine corridors to the designated location of the janitor's closet. Then and only then would the true test commence. The delicate, potentially perilous task of gaining access to the floor hatch, the gateway to the subterranean maintenance tunnel, the concealed path leading inexorably downwards towards the dimly lit, chlorine-scented and deeply disturbingly mysterious depths of the indoor pool. Hours later, cloaked in darkness and fueled by a potent cocktail of nervous anticipation and stubborn resolve, I found myself crouching in the shadowed alcove of the vocational building's seldom-used loading dock, my gloved hand testing the metallic coolness of the exterior door handle. Just a few more feet just past this final door, and the tunnel awaits. A soft click echoed in the stillness as the latch disengaged. Luck, improbable and unexpected, or perhaps merely the predictable consequence of institutional apathy, was demonstrably, inexplicably, on my side. Taking a deep breath, steeling my resolve against the rising tide of fear and a tremor of genuine excitement, I grasped the cold metal handle of the hatch within the janitor's closet. This was it, the point of no return. I was about to descend into the depths, to confront the mystery that had ensnared my classmates, to finally, definitively, face whatever waited for me in the purple-tinged waters of the closed-off pool. No turning back now. With a final resolute clench of my jaw, I pulled the handle sharply upwards. The rusty hinges shrieked in protest, a sudden jarring noise that seemed to amplify the oppressive silence of the deserted school. The heavy metal hatch swung open, revealing the narrow descending shaft in all its claustrophobic, dimly lit, and undeniably ominous reality. A gust of air, stale and damp, rushed upwards from the opening, carrying with it the same unsettling earthy odor I had detected before, now stronger, more pronounced, tinged with a faint, almost metallic undercurrent that sent a fresh wave of unease washing over me. The darkness below seemed to pulse, a living entity, promising both answers and unimaginable terrors. My flashlight beam, now held in a trembling hand, cut through the gloom, illuminating the top rungs of the metal ladder disappearing downwards into the black abyss. The concrete walls of the shaft were slick with moisture, glistening faintly in the narrow beam of light, hinting at the damp subterranean world that awaited below. Hesitation, that lingering shadow of doubt, flickered once more at the edge of my resolve. Perhaps this was madness. Perhaps I should simply retreat, quietly close the hatch, and return to the relative safety of my silent, empty house, to the familiar blandness of my tasteless existence. Perhaps some mysteries were best left undisturbed, some doors best left unopened, but the whispers, the changes in my classmates, the promise of something more, drew me down despite myself. But the dismissive smirk of Sarah, the unsettling transformations of my classmates, the persistent nagging pull of the unknown, all of it coalesced, solidified into an irresistible force. Curiosity, defiance, a morbid fascination, and a desperate need to prove myself. These were the currents that now propelled me forward, overriding the rational voice of caution, silencing the rising tide of fear. I swung my leg over the edge of the hatch, the cold metal biting through the thin fabric of my trousers. Then the other leg followed, and for a fleeting moment, I hung suspended between the familiar world of the school and the unknown depths that yawned below. The air around me felt heavy, charged with an almost palpable sense of anticipation, a stillness that felt pregnant with unspoken secrets and unseen things. Taking one last, deep breath, a breath that felt strangely thin and inadequate in the humid subterranean air, I released my grip and began to descend. The ladder rungs were slick and cold beneath my gloved hands, each downward step taking me further away from the familiar world above, deeper into the encroaching darkness. The walls of the shaft pressed in around me, cold and rough against my shoulders, as I turned sideways to navigate the narrow passage. The damp, earthy smell intensified with each rung I descended, becoming almost overpowering, clinging to the back of my throat, filling my nostrils with the scent of wet soil and something else, something subtly, disturbingly animal. The flashlight beam, now dancing erratically in my trembling grip, seemed to offer little comfort, swallowed by the oppressive darkness beyond its immediate reach. The silence was absolute, broken only by the faint scrape of my shoes against the concrete and the increasingly frantic hammering of my own heart, a drumbeat of fear and anticipation echoing in the confined space. A sudden scurrying sound from the shadows sent a jolt of adrenaline through me, but it was just the skittering of rats, their eyes gleaming for a moment in the flashlight beam before disappearing back into the darkness. The drip, drip, drip of water, now closer, more insistent, resonated from somewhere deeper in the earth, a rhythmic pulse in the oppressive stillness. A primal fear, a deep-seated instinctual terror began to coil in my stomach, tightening with each downward step. The darkness was alive, sentient, pressing in on me from all sides, whispering anxieties in the suffocating silence. The thought of being trapped down here alone in the cold earth with whatever unspeakable secrets the pool held sent shivers of genuine visceral terror rippling down my spine. Yet, I continued my descent. Driven by an almost self-destructive compulsion, a morbid fascination that had long since eclipsed mere curiosity, a desperate need to understand, to see, to know. I was past the point of rational retreat. The locker-sized door, the gateway to the pool, to her, to whatever awaited me in the purple-tinged darkness, beckoned from the bottom of the tunnel, drawing me downwards into the unknown depths. Finally, after what felt like an eternity of slow, deliberate descent through the suffocating blackness, a faint, ethereal glimmer of light appeared ahead. A weak, almost ghostly luminescence filtering from around a distant corner. Hope surged through me, a fragile spark flickering against the encroaching darkness, a tentative counterpoint to the primal fear that still clung to my skin like a cold, damp shroud. The tunnel widened almost imperceptibly, and the faint light, impossibly distant at first, achingly slowly grew stronger, resolving itself into the unmistakable, rectangular outline of a door. The locker-sized door. It was there, just as Everett had described, set into the cold, rough concrete wall at the end of the tunnel. A simple, utilitarian metal rectangle, slightly, tantalizingly ajar. A thin sliver of light, weak but undeniably present, spilled out from the narrow gap, painting a pale, almost ethereal streak across the oppressive darkness of the tunnel. And with the light came a rush of air, warm and humid, striking me with a sudden, almost physical force, carrying with it a wave of scent. The unmistakable cloying sweetness of chlorine overlaid with a heavy, almost suffocating floral perfume, and that same lingering, unsettling undertone of something organic, something subtly, indefinably wrong. Hesitantly, my heart hammering against my ribs, I reached out a trembling hand and gently pushed the locker-sized door open further. The rusty hinges groaning in loud, protracted protest, releasing another rush of humid, floral-scented air, and a slightly wider band of flickering lantern light illumination that spilled out into the darkness of the tunnel. I stepped through the doorway, crossing the threshold from the claustrophobic confines of the maintenance tunnel into the transformed, unsettling, and utterly silent space beyond. My flashlight beam, still clutched tightly in my hand, swept across the scene before me, attempting to illuminate the secrets hidden within the purple-tinged shadows. The pool area, once familiar and mundane, was now alien, transformed. The harsh, buzzing fluorescent lights of the daytime pool were extinguished, plunged into complete and utter darkness. Their sterile, clinical glare had been replaced by a softer, more atmospheric, more theatrical illumination. Dozens of electric lanterns, the kind typically used for camping or emergency power outages, lined the perimeter of the pool, casting a warm, flickering, and strangely unsettling glow across the scene. The lantern light painted long, dancing shadows on the walls, distorting the familiar daytime shapes of the water slides and diving boards, transforming them into grotesque, vaguely menacing shapes lurking in the semi-darkness. The familiar, reassuring bright blue plastic pool cover, the mundane shield against debris and evaporation, was undeniably, conspicuously, gone, vanished. The surface of the pool, now fully exposed to the subterranean air, reflected the flickering lantern light in shimmering purple-tinged ripples, a dark, unsettling mirror reflecting a distorted, dreamlike reality. The air itself was thick, almost viscous, with the overwhelming, cloying fragrance of flowers, an almost suffocating floral perfume that saturated the senses, obscuring the usual, vaguely antiseptic, chlorine tang that normally permeated the air of the pool enclosure. Petals, in an unsettling profusion of color, drifted on the surface of the water, a disturbingly vibrant organic mosaic floating on the dark, purple depths. The water itself, once a familiar chlorinated blue, was now a murky, unnatural, unsettling shade of purple, almost black in the lantern light. It hinted at unknown, unseen depths, at hidden things lurking just beneath the petal-strewn surface. The bottom of the pool, usually visible through the clear blue water, was now completely obscured, swallowed by the darkness and the swirling, disturbingly organic surface layer of flowers. Silence hung heavy in the air, a palpable, almost physical stillness that was far more unnerving than any expected cacophony, any anticipated monstrous sounds. The usual echoing acoustics of the vast, empty pool enclosure, amplified by the hard tile surfaces and the soaring ceiling, were strangely muted, dampened somehow, perhaps by the sheer volume of earth that now, inexplicably lined the bottom of the pool. Perhaps by the sheer weight of the floral scent, pressing down on the silence, absorbing sound itself. There was no sound of splashing water, no hushed whispers of clandestine conversations, no giggling whispers of teenage secrets, no mechanical jingle of a singing fish serenading the empty depths, just the heavy floral-scented silence pressing down, watching, waiting. It was deserted, completely, utterly, unnervingly deserted. No sign of students, no trace of her, no indication of any of the clandestine nocturnal activities I had so anxiously anticipated. Only the soft, flickering glow of the electric lanterns, the unsettling, purple-tinged stillness of the water, the oppressive, cloying fragrance of flowers, and the profoundly unsettling, almost deafening silence. A chilling emptiness that resonated far deeper, felt far more ominous than any monstrous revelation, any overt threat I could have possibly imagined. Had I been wrong? Was this all for nothing? Had I been wrong? Had my carefully constructed theories, my anxious accumulation of whispered rumors and unsettling observations, all been a product of overactive teenage imagination, a vast, elaborate fabrication, a mass delusion fueled by adolescent boredom and the contagious spread of baseless rumor? Or was this emptiness merely a deceptive facade, a carefully orchestrated illusion of tranquility, a deceptive calm, the unsettlingly quiet prelude to something far more sinister, something far more present, lurking just beneath the deceptively placid, petal-strewn surface of the still, unnaturally purple water? A cold prickle of unease crawled up my spine, raising gooseflesh on my arms despite the humid warmth of the air. Something felt profoundly, fundamentally wrong. The air itself was too still, too heavy. The silence was too absolute, too deliberate. It was the silence of a hunter lying in ambush, the deceptive stillness of a waiting predator, the unnerving quiet before a gathering storm. And then from the deceptively placid depths of the unnaturally purple water, a slow, deliberate ripple disturbed the meticulously arranged, petal-strewn surface. A single, languid ripple, radiating outwards from the deeper end of the pool, moving slowly, purposefully, towards the shallow end, towards me. And as that ripple, that silent harbinger of something unseen and undeniably present beneath the surface, approached the shallows, the oppressive silence of the pool enclosure was abruptly, jarringly, broken by a faint, distorted, undeniably mechanical jingle. Take me to the river. Take me to the river. The distorted, mechanical crooning of Big Mouth Billy Bass rising from the depths of the purple pool was the final, chilling confirmation. The rumors, the changes, the unsettling atmosphere, it all converged on this single, incongruous sound. The silence was broken, but the terror had only just begun. What awaited in the murky depths? What ancient presence had captivated the students and transformed the familiar into the grotesque? And what role did a singing plastic fish play in this terrifying tableau? Some questions, once asked, lead to answers far more disturbing than the silence that preceded them.